Hi everyone, it is Justus, and today I'm going to explain where I've been for a while now. At the start of this year, I had intentions of posting fairly regularly because YouTube's really fun. I really like it, and the journal community is honestly very enriching to my life. With being someone whose special interest is stationery and living somewhere where it's not a ton of stationery stuff, and also I don't live in a very large populous area to where there's meetups or anything, the online community has honestly just been so nice for me. And I was doing fairly regular. Around early summertime, I took a little bit of a break because me and my fiance at the time, don't worry, we didn't separate, we actually got married. We went to Disney with some of our very good friends, and some of those very good friends may be watching right now. And so that was honestly, I figured that would just be a normal break. I'd come back the next week, the end. And then after that, a lot of job insecurity stuff happened, and I won't get into details, but I had to switch careers, and luckily I am in a very good place right now with some very good people, and I feel very appreciated. But that does kind of rock you, and I don't think I realized it until recently, but from that point to now, there was a very clear, distinct drop in my mental health. My executive dysfunction got awful. It really got to the point where day-to-day life, I didn't quite know what was going on. And so that's when I especially had to write things down in my book, because I joke about having a bad memory, but it literally got to the point to where if I did not write it down, it was dead to me. You could tell me that you told me last week and I would have no idea. So that happened, which honestly made it very easy to just go into survival mode essentially and just kind of forget about hobbies. I lost my love for journaling for a little bit there. But after getting married, which was a very stressful week, and I'll get into that, and then having a honeymoon, I am back in my house now with all of our little fluffy animals, and I just feel alive again. And it's always very weird to kind of say that, because obviously you're living your life, but you don't realize until you're out of it, or at least I don't, that you were in a depression. And for someone who has chronic depression, that's kind of just my regular. So I thought like, oh geez, I'm just not feeling good lately. But there's ebbs and flows, and that was a little bit of a lower point, and now we're at a higher point again, or at least we're trying to level out. So yeah, that's essentially why I wasn't here, and I want to tell you about the wedding and the honeymoon now, because those are pretty big things. One moment. So the week of the wedding, I had a lot of family come into town, and the way that we did our wedding, we wanted it to be very inexpensive so that we could spend the bulk of the money on our honeymoon. And I know a lot of people don't do it that way, but that way is getting more popular, so I'll tell you how we did it. I am a child of military folks, and so we went to the military base. We got to use the venue for free. That was lovely, wonderful, because as I was looking through venues, even just like a random little tree with a little cottage a couple hours away even, that was like, things are expensive. If you're a young person, you don't really have all of that. There was also a tree in Tallahassee called the Lichgate tree that I fell in love with, because at one point I went to school in Tallahassee, and there's like a little fairy ring, and there's like a little baby garden. That was free, but the day of our wedding was actually taken, so we couldn't do it there. But that's to say, we got a venue that was inexpensive to free. As far as the food goes, my mother was absolutely wonderful, and because we had a small guest list, we only invited about 30 people, and not even all of them showed up. She cooked everything. So she did brisket and tacos and beans and rice, and it was super cute. And we also picked up a couple things from Publix, the grocery store, like little baby croissant sandwiches and fruit tray, you know, standard appetizer-y things. So that's what we did for food. We didn't do any like the chicken or the fish or maybe the steak. No. I also knew that during weddings that I have been to, I haven't really had an opportunity to eat a ton. At my own wedding, I obviously didn't have an opportunity to eat a ton. Oh, and speaking of eating, cake. I used to be a professional wedding cake decorator. So my original plan was to make my own wedding cake. That way I could do it like literally the cost of ingredients because I'm not going to count my own time. But, and I'm so thankful for this, but people were suggesting that I don't do that because worrying about the wedding cake is one of the last things you want to think about on your wedding day. Totally right. But I got my wedding cake made at a local grocery store, just plain naked ice. And then I had my auntie and my cousin decorate it for me with little fake flowers that we got from Amazon. I could have totally made a better cake than at that grocery store, but my aunt and my cousin made it really cute with all the little decorations, and I appreciate that. For photography, one of my amazing friends came in and offered to do the photography for me. If you're watching this, I owe you. Please know that I owe you. And I know that I will get you back. That was super kind because if it weren't that, then photography would have potentially been the most expensive thing about the wedding. And I am super grateful for that. And the pictures turned out wonderful. I'll post a couple here maybe. Aside from that, we paid for a bar for a little bit. We had, I think it was some like, golly, my memory's still not all the way here and my functioning is not all the way here, but that's just normal brain things. That's not me being wonky right now. What else did we have to pay for? Obviously my dress. My dress was much more expensive than I had intended. My original game plan was to go into like Ross or TJ Maxx and find some type of white dress and have my friend Kat hem it because she is super good at sewing. But I had a super awful wedding dress shopping experience, and so I ended up just buying a dress because at that point I felt like I needed to for my confidence. That story, essentially, I went thrift shopping. I found a dress, $30. It fit me perfectly. And I was like, awesome, great. We're gonna get this. I'm gonna send it to Kat and we're gonna just make it a little bit more Justusified. And then I really, really, really wanted to have the like say yes to the dress experience, even if I didn't buy. Like I wanted to go into a store, put some stuff on, look into the little mirror, put on a tiara, and like feel like I was a bride, but then not have to buy the dress. But I went into the very first store that I had booked. I only booked one store to do that at, and it was one where I've had friends and family also purchase their wedding gowns from. And I walked in, I explained that I was a little bit early and that, hey, I have an appointment for this time for my name. I'm about 15 minutes early. I was wondering if you could kind of show me to the showroom so I can start looking at things. I understand it's not my appointment yet, so I can't have assistance yet, but I just want to look. And I got treated so badly. I literally left in tears because he kind of was like, okay, well, like with your price range, because they have you do a questionnaire about like your ideal pricing. And so I put in my ideal pricing. Obviously that can change. But he was like, with your price range, you're not going to get an assistant, but you can look over there in the discount rack. And then he walked me over to like the plus size gowns because I am a bigger girl, but he put me in gowns that were like not even close to my size. And so I was looking around and I was like, okay, cool, not gonna look at these gowns. Maybe we'll look at the bridesmaids things. Let's go there. And so we start looking at the bridesmaids things, and I have my mother and my maid of honor with me. And he comes back and makes a comment like, oh, you know, we don't carry your size. When's your wedding? Yeah, we're not gonna be able to do anything custom in that time. And I was just like, okay, obviously you're really not trying to help me and you're talking about weight so callously. I also could have spent more money. You didn't have to kind of just like shoehorn me into that little area, but cool, thanks. Awesome to know that people without a ton of money you don't care about and larger people you don't care about. Cool. So I just like, I started crying a little bit and I walked out. which obviously would break your mom's heart. And so after I calmed down, we went to another store a couple hours away. Because again, we don't live anywhere where there's a ton of options, so we drove a couple hours away. And that time I had a super awesome experience. The people, even though I was early for the appointment again because I didn't want to wait an extra 15 minutes just in the car, I walked in and asked if I could just start looking around until my appointment. They were great. They showed me all of the dresses. They explained that they have a super wide array of sizes as well, so anything I see, chances are they could find one that fit me. And then they even gave me my own like little dressing room area before my appointment. And even the lady who helped me, she was pulling out dresses that she thinks would look good on me. She was hyping me up. She was like, yes, you look like Isabella from Encanto. That made me so happy. And funny enough, it was a David's Bridal. So like, I always saw the commercials and stuff for David's Bridal and was like, oh wow, that's like so suburban. But super nice service. I left an amazing review for that specific location and called out the girl who helped me, because the polar opposite from like the first place to the second place. Wild. And so I found, she actually picked out a dress and was like, ooh, I think that this may look good on you. And my bridesmaid also was like, ooh, I think this may look good on you. Like they both found the dress. So I tried it on and it was wonderful. Picture of the dress here. And after having that awful experience, it was kind of like, okay, well, yeah, I'm getting the dress, obviously. It wasn't part of the plan, but this is what we're doing now. So, like, we paid a little bit for the dress. The actual wedding day was really, really sweet. The way that we did it was both the bride's side and the groom's side wedding party. We all got ready in one room together because at the venue, the men's room didn't really have much of a getting ready area, which honestly, so weird because grooms still have to get ready too. Like what if they want to see themselves when they put on their suit, make sure it's not tucked in weird. So we all got ready in the same area. It was honestly really cute. We played some music and like I was getting ready right next to my fiance and everyone was there. It was a really sweet bonding time. And then exactly how they say it, the wedding itself was a blur. And he and I are both fairly shy people. So during the ceremony and stuff, there's obviously like, okay, the bride and groom first dance, blah, blah, blah. We were both just so overwhelmed by the end of the ceremony itself and we did not want to cry. And so we're like, we're skipping the dancing. Don't want people to stare at me dancing. We're skipping that. No. Let's just go into reception now. I'm kind of done. Which we're allowed to do that. It was super nice. So we went into the reception. Us and like none of our super close friends are like super dancers, so we didn't really have a lot of dancing, but there was a lot of like nice conversation, got to play with my nephews. We made a game at one point, which will always stick out to me as really cute, that my maid of honor kind of made up and then told me about, and I was like, yes, this is great. Where we had a lot of fake rose petals because it was much cheaper than buying real rose petals. And so our flower dudes, my brothers, threw them while we were walking down, and we had to pick everything up at the venue before the end of the night. And we had told one of my little baby nephews like, oh, well, we can't have cake until all of the petals are picked up. And so for every 10 petals that he picked up and put in the little bucket, he could like get thrown in the air like a little rocket ship. And so we did that for a little while, and we would trade out and be like, hey, you're on rocket ship duty while he picks up the petals. Which like maybe a little bit manipulative of adults, but it turned out so fun, and like he benefited too because he was absolutely haggling. At one point, we came up to one of my brothers and I was like, hey, for every 10 he collects, you throw him in the air. I think he's owed a couple. And he's little, and so he can talk, but he can't talk like super coherently, so he's still in the phase where he can say a few words. He looked at him and he said, I get 5. And I was like, I'm pretty sure you don't get 5. And he was like, I get 5. And so I looked at him and I was like, just give the man 5. He's over here haggling. Okay. And it was just so fun. And then everyone that helped set up the day before and the day after, It was really nice, and I got to see a lot of people that I don't really get to see that often. And so I'm one of those people to where I can have people that I consider very close to me that I don't talk to for a very long time. Like, I may have a small conversation once a year even, and I still consider them very close to me. And I got to have a few of those people come, and that meant the world to me. So yeah, it was really happy. And like, there's a few times throughout this video where my voice is cracking a little bit, and I'm a person to where I can't really talk about sentimental things or anything like that without getting a little bit emotional. I'm not gonna cry, but that's why. And so that was the wedding. After the wedding, we were on our honeymoon, and what we did, this is actually really cool. We bought a Sprinter van, like a Class B RV type thing, from Facebook Marketplace. An older couple had bought it. It only had about 600 miles on it. And if you know me in real life, that amount is probably going to change because I cannot remember, but I asked my fiance, it was around 600 miles. It only had about 600 miles on it because they had purchased it in South Florida and then drove it back up to this place. They were the only owners on it, and they had gotten sick, and so they couldn't really use it for what they intended anymore and put it on Facebook Marketplace. And we were able to buy it. The gentleman we bought it from and his wife were super sweet and super accommodating. And that meant that we got to have a van that otherwise we would never be able to afford, because they were nice. So we were able to get about a month off of work, 4 weeks. And we had worked out different deals with our employers. I won't go into those things because obviously it's not important. It depends on your employer. But we were super fortunate in that we got to have some time off, some time remote working, but we got to be in the van for 4 total weeks. And we traveled the USA. I have left Florida very few times. One of them was to study in China. I also have some family in Arizona, and as a young kid, I lived in Oklahoma. But that is to say that I don't have a super ton of experience traveling the world. Like, I know the Deep South, and even then I only know a little bit of the Deep South because that's where I've been all of my teenage and adult life. So being able to travel the USA was wild to me because well, for one, I didn't quite realize just how freaking big it is. We like budgeted for half of the miles because we also forgot that gas prices change out west and up north. So like, that's super fun. But we ended up going a little over 10,000 miles in 4 weeks. So we started from Florida, and then we went up through Georgia, then to Virginia, and we tracked up to New York, through Michigan, up to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, Wisconsin, down that area. I forget all those states, but we went through Idaho at some point, and we went to Oregon. Loved Oregon. Don't be surprised if I move there someday. My allergies were gone. Something about me, I am perpetually stuffy. It's because I'm allergic to my everything around me. We even live in a live oak neighborhood, and I am allergic to oak. So being in Oregon and being able to breathe, I was like, oh my God, this is what people get to experience? I've not been able to breathe for any of my memory like this. Like, even before I knew I had allergies, I was not breathing like this. So loved Oregon. And then we went through the redwoods into like a bit of Nevada so that we could cut through to Utah. And then we went through like Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Colorado, Alabama, back down to Florida. We did like a whole circle, and we had wanted to do more and more places, but like obviously it takes a lot of driving time to get places, so you can't really like sit and enjoy a ton. But we did go to a ton of national parks and state parks. If you were to ask Danny, my new husband, what his favorite was, he would say Zion National Park in Utah. if you were to ask me what my favorite park was, I would probably say the Redwoods, but we didn't really get a chance to stop because we were on a time crunch. We also went to California when it was raining, which was also very confusing to me. But something extra to note there while I'm there, we brought our dog with us, Mr. Diesel Dog. So it's us two plus a little doggy in a 17-foot van for a month. And that dog peed coast to coast. I will tell you what, he has peed on the white sand beaches in Florida, and he has peed on those like brown gray beaches in California. He has gone everywhere. He's been everywhere, man. Other than like national and state parks. We got to visit my aunt. We got to visit one of his friends from online that he's like never met before. We went to some cities that we liked a lot. Charlotte, North Carolina. They were super cool. I went to a place called Good Postage, which is a Travelers Company partner shop. And I used the Travelers Company locator on their website to find it because I was determined to find some stationery stores while we were on our trip. They were super pleasant, and we went during Halloween week, and so that entire shopping area was doing trick-or-treat for the children. They were super nice. So I may tag them or send this to them at some point, but with Good Postage, you guys are awesome. I love you. I absolutely want to be back someday. And then we also stopped at a place called Meiningers in Denver, Colorado. 2 stories. It is a 2-story tall art/stationery store, and it was also right beside this place called the Wizard's Chest, which is super nerdy, super fun, had tons of board games, like tons of Dungeons and Dragons stuff. So like that was a fun evening. But we spoke to a man in Meiningers, and I'll probably explain more in another video because this isn't about that. But he was super nice to me, and we were talking about fountain pens for an extended period of time, and I don't get to do that with people. So we were going back and forth, and it was so nice, and he let me use some of his personal pens to test out, even though they didn't have them at the store, which was magical to me. That's kind of what I mean when I say like, this community is one of the happiest communities that I have experienced on the internet, to where I could just talk to someone, random stranger, and they're so nice and they let me use their pens. Like, I can't believe it. It was so nice. I will tag that person's Instagram in the comments. They don't have a lot of stationery stuff on it, but they are a very cool person, and they are also in a band. So particularly if you're in the Denver, Colorado area and you want to see them play, visit their Instagram page. It'll be down below. But long story short, that's kind of why I have had an absence on YouTube. Went to Disney, job stuff, got married, honeymoon, and here we are. I'm hoping to kind of get back into the swing of things, but like literally everyone that makes YouTube says that, so don't hold me to literally anything. I'll try to post more. If I don't, something's probably gone awful, but you know, it's okay. There's only so much you can do in a day, particularly whenever you're working a full-time job and you have a house to take care of and you're newly married and all that. This is really fun though. It's really enriching to me to talk to everyone. So let me know how your last few months have been. And by last few months, I mean basically the last half of the year, because it's already December. And I have some more to come. Love you guys. Bye.